everyone, and welcome to AWS Julie. For today's video, we're continuing with our new series on needed AWS fundamentals to ensure you pass your AWS certification exams. Let's dive into the fundamentals of Amazon Simple Storage Service or Amazon S3. For this lesson, I want to do a high-level overview of Amazon S3, and we will be diving deeper into the fundamentals in later lessons. But for this fundamental series, I wanted to first add fundamentals for the core services in AWS. So S3 is a global resilient service. So it is a global storage platform, and S3 is ran in every AWS region. And remember from our public and private service lesson, S3 is a public service and it runs from the AWS public zone. Your data is stored in a specific region, and that data can be accessed from anywhere. So when you store and hold your objects in an S3 bucket in a specific region, you must understand that the laws and the rules of that region also apply to your S3 bucket. Since Amazon S3 is a globally resilient service, when you create an S3 bucket, you must add a globally unique name for your bucket. No one bucket can have the same name as another bucket, no matter which region or where in the world that S3 bucket sits. And you may see an exam question asking about the names of an S3 bucket, and just remember, no one bucket can have the name of another. They must have globally unique names. The data you store in S3 is replicated across different availability zones in that region. So S3 can tolerate a failure of one availability zone, and you can also replicate data between regions. It is designed to store virtually an unlimited amount of data, and multiple users can access your data in S3. Let's look at the architecture and how Amazon S3 works. In S3, you create buckets and add objects to your buckets. An object can be videos, pictures, files, large data sets, and more. And the size of the objects in S3 can be 0 bytes to 5 terabytes in size. This is an exam tip because you may see a question on your exam about sizes of objects that can be uploaded to S3. Objects also have version IDs, and you can have multiple versions. And again, we will cover versioning later on under the deeper dive lesson for fundamentals of S3. Objects can also have access control added to them. So you can create ACLs and bucket policies to restrict access to your objects. And there is also metadata for your objects and so on. So your S3 bucket can store virtually unlimited objects. And all of those objects are stored at the same level. There is no storage structure. So it does not have a structure like a file system that has files and folders and so on. Everything in your S3 bucket is stored at the same level. There are no actual folders, no file types, but you can create a folder. But that folder is only prefixes for the object name, even though it seems to be a folder, especially when you see it in the command line. But it is not. Folders just add a prefix to the object name. So an S3 object consists of a key, which equals the name, and a value, which equals the data. So on your exam, if you are asked to choose an object storage system, then that choice should be S3 because S3 is an object store system. It is not a file system like EFS, Amazon Elastic File System, or a block storage system like EBS, Amazon Elastic Block Store. And we will cover all of these storage systems under the storage fundamental lesson that is coming soon. Another fundamental to understand is data consistency models. And again, we will dive deeper into the needed data fundamentals in our database and storage lessons. But S3 provides strong read after write consistency for puts and for delete requests for objects in your S3 bucket in all regions. This behavior applies to both writes to new objects as well as put requests that overwrite existing objects and delete requests too. In addition, read operations on Amazon S3 Select, Amazon S3 Access Control List, and Amazon S3 Object Tags and object metadata are strongly consistent. Amazon S3 achieves high availability by replicating that data across multiple servers within the AWS data centers. Bucket configurations have an eventual consistency model. This means if you delete a bucket and immediately list all buckets, the deleted bucket might still appear in that list. If you enable versioning on a bucket for the first time, it might take a short amount of time for the change to be fully propagated. So AWS advises to wait around 15 minutes before issuing any write operations on your objects in your bucket. Now, remember from our cloud computing lessons when we talked about regions, availability zones, and edge locations? Well, you also need to understand Amazon S3 access points, which are named network endpoints with dedicated access policies that describe how data can be accessed using that endpoint. Access points are attached to the buckets that you can use to perform S3 operations such as get object and put object. This helps to simplify managing data access at scale for shared data sets in Amazon S3. I want to stop this lesson here, and under our AWS storage fundamental lessons, we will learn more about the different types of storage that I mentioned already in this video, the different AWS storage services, along with the fundamentals for cloud storage and data too. If you found this content useful, a like and a subscribe would mean a lot to me. It really helps me know what y'all like, and it gives me an indicator that I'm building useful content. Now in the next lesson, we will cover another AWS core service, and that's one of my favorites, Amazon CloudWatch. Thanks so much for watching.